For 10 years, Eleanor Vance was the perfect girlfriend. Beautiful, brilliant, successful. Her only flaw was her talent for tearing me down. When I got the second highest GPA, but not the highest, she'd tell me I wasn't smart enough. When I finally earned my first royalty check for my writing, she dismissed it as completely worthless. Then, standing in the tuxedo shop, when Eleanor criticized me for not having a good enough physique, for not looking anything like a groom, I finally broke. For the first time, I screamed at her. If you don't think I'm good enough, then don't marry me. In the boutique, when I stepped out of the dressing room, even a stranger browsing the racks couldn't help but gasp. The sales associate smiled. "Mr. Carter, you're tall and lean. This suit looks incredible on you. Go show your fiancée," she urged. "She's going to love it." I managed a weak smile. You never know. She has very high standards. After a decade together, I knew the drill. Eleanor's standards were impossibly high, and she'd never once given me a genuine compliment. But today, looking at myself in the three-way mirror, I saw it. Broad shoulders and narrow waist, a sharp, clean silhouette. The suit was a perfect match. Maybe just this once, Eleanor would like it. Would she praise me? Tell me I looked handsome? Would her jaw drop in amazement like the other wives and fiancés I saw fawning over their partners in the shop? Buoyed by that flicker of hope, I nervously tugged on her sleeve. The next moment, that hope was crushed into dust. Eleanor turned, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. The first words out of her mouth were, "Ethan, you're still too heavy." My smile froze on my face. Even the sales associate looked lost. "Your face is puffy, your arms aren't toned, your frame is too wide, and your waist isn't trim. It doesn't look good at all," Eleanor said with a sigh. "Honestly, Ethan, you don't look anything like a groom in that suit. Only I would be willing to put up with you." Her voice wasn't loud, but it was pitched at the perfect level for everyone in the store to hear. A dozen pairs of eyes fell on me. Some pitying, some mocking, others just watching the drama unfold. In that moment, I felt less like a person and more like a product she was inspecting for defects. The air caught in my throat, a knot of pressure building in my chest until I could barely breathe. To fit into this damn suit, I had followed her workout regimen religiously. For 3 months, I'd eaten next to nothing, starving myself to lose 20 pounds just so I would look good on our wedding day, so I would feel like I deserved to stand next to her. After all that, why would she still say something so cruel? Maybe it was the hunger making me emotionally unstable. Maybe it was the crushing weight of my dashed hopes. Whatever it was, after 10 years of biting my tongue, I was done being silent. I ripped off the tie, and for the first time I screamed at her. "Eleanor, if you don't think I'm good enough, then don't marry me." Her eyes widened in shock. "You're right, I don't look like a groom. I don't deserve you. So this wedding? It's off." I took a deep, shuddering breath and finally said the words that had been circling in my mind for years. "Eleanor, we're done. Let's break up." My chest was still aching in sharp, rhythmic pangs when my buddy Leo Davis came to pick me up. As soon as I posted the news about the canceled wedding on Facebook, my phone blew up. Everyone wanted to know what happened. The most common comments were things like, "Ethan, are you sure this isn't just a misunderstanding with Eleanor? She's such a catch. If you let her go, you'll never find anyone like her again." Even my own mother sided with her. "I spoke to Eleanor," she said over the phone. "It was just a small disagreement. You don't need to blow it out of proportion." Eleanor herself just sent me a 3-word text. "Stop being dramatic." I gripped my phone, a wave of profound helplessness washing over me. No one understood. In everyone else's eyes, Eleanor was the perfect girlfriend. Gorgeous, capable, a high earner, and completely faithful to me for 10 years. Her only quirk was her tendency to belittle me. We were childhood sweethearts, having grown up in the same neighborhood. She was always the kid every parent compared theirs to, the one who excelled at everything, who was always one step ahead of me. But life has a way of balancing things out. It gave her immense talent, but it also gave her a broken home. Her mother died young, and her father was a workaholic who barely paid her any attention, except to glance her way when she brought home another award. As a result, Eleanor grew up fast. While the rest of us were still making mud pies in the backyard, she was winning state-level mathletes competitions. Her dysfunctional family forged her into a cold, distant person. With me, and only me, she showed a different side, her razor-sharp tongue. When I finished second in the class instead of first, she'd rap my knuckles and call me not smart enough. She'd point at a mistake on my homework and berate me. How could you get something so simple wrong? When I won a bronze medal at a science fair, she, the gold medalist, would look at me with crushing disappointment and call me a blockhead. Throughout my adolescence, my mom's favorite refrain was, "Why can't you be more like Eleanor? She's so brilliant, always number one. Her awards are piling up." You could say I grew up entirely in her shadow. I hated how she constantly made me feel worthless, and I resented my mom for always comparing us. Yet, when we reached that awkward age of first crushes, everyone started calling us a classic case of bickering lovers. The only reason she's so hard on you, they'd say, is because she likes you. Even when Eleanor asked me out, she used that same logic. Ethan, she said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. Do you think I'd be so demanding if I didn't like you? It was the first time she'd ever spoken to me with such tenderness. Her expression was gentle, her eyes filled with a warm light. Our friends were cheering and hollering around us, and I didn't have time to process the unease coiling in my gut. And just like that, I stumbled into a relationship with Eleanor Vance. It was a stumble that lasted 10 years. Leo was my best friend from college, and the only person who supported my decision to break up. I remember one time in college, Eleanor had insisted we go to the library to study together on a Saturday. Waking up at 7 on a weekend was brutal, and even though I rushed, I was still 2 minutes late. I found her waiting outside, arms crossed, her face a mask of displeasure. Ethan, why don't you have any concept of time? Is this how you're going to act when you have a job? Are you going to be late for client meetings? What if a multi-million-dollar deal is on the line? I instinctively started to apologize, but Leo, just getting back from his morning run, stepped between us. Dude, it's completely unnatural to wake up this early on a weekend just to study with you. The fact that Ethan even did it is amazing, he said, shielding me. Besides, he was 2 minutes late. Do you really have to make such a big deal out of it? From that day on, Eleanor and Leo couldn't stand each other. Leo loved to build me up. He praised me when I got the second best GPA. He congratulated me for acing my midterms. He even high-fived me for showing up to an A class. Don't listen to her, man, he'd say. Ethan, you're already killing it. That kind of validation was something I had never experienced in my entire life. I love spending time with Leo. Eleanor, of course, scoffed at our friendship. He only praises you to make you arrogant, so you can't see your own flaws, she'd insist. Humility leads to self-improvement. Pointing out your weaknesses like I do is what's truly good for you. Whenever she talked about Leo, her brow would furrow and her lips would press into a thin line. I knew that was her tell. She was upset, and whenever she made that face, I knew a lecture was coming. I wanted to defend him, to tell her that Leo wasn't like that at all. But a baseless fear would always creep in, rooting me to the spot. I was terrified of Eleanor's anger, of her accusations. When I told Leo about it later, he just sighed. Ethan, it's hard for someone who's been constantly put down to break free. Just take it one step at a time. So today, when he heard I'd finally broken up with Eleanor, he was ecstatic. He pulled me into a rare hug and whispered, "Congratulations, Ethan. You've escaped hell." Leo took me back to his place and let me crash in the spare room. He let me inside. It's my sister's old room. Sorry you have to rough it for a bit, man. I looked around at the pink wallpaper, the Mickey Mouse desk, and the porcelain doll with pigtails sitting on the bed. A wave of dizziness hit me, but it was a place to stay. Besides, he wasn't charging me rent. It's great, I said, and I meant it. Eleanor was a minimalist. Our apartment was a sterile landscape of black, white, and gray. Whenever I showed a preference for something, she would just laugh derisively. Ethan, your taste is unbelievably tacky. The thought sent another sharp pain through my chest. If Eleanor was the slow, imperceptible nightmare of my life, then Leo was the universe's way of making it up to me. I went back to the apartment I had shared with Eleanor to pack my things. I didn't expect her to be there, but she was. She was sitting on the sofa and lazily lifted her eyelids as I walked in. Done with your tantrum? You're back. I fought to keep my voice from shaking. I'm not having a tantrum, Eleanor. I was serious when I said we're breaking up. I'm just here to get my stuff. To my surprise, she didn't say anything. She just sat there, hands clasped, watching me with an unreadable, almost mocking smile. I pushed down the discomfort rising in my throat and started packing. I didn't have much, really. Only a few things were truly mine. Most of my possessions had been bought by Eleanor after I moved in. When we first started living together, she'd stared at my colorful toothbrush holder and towel with a deep frown. Ethan, why are your things so childish? They're hideous. The next day, she had replaced all of them. When I tried to argue with her, she just shrugged. Your stuff was cheap and couldn't be seen in public. So I replaced it. That was the first time I thought about leaving her. I didn't understand. How could personal taste be classified as high class or low class? But my mom talked me down. Eleanor loves you, so just let her have her way. You two have been together for so long. You can't break up over something so small. That time I gave in. It took me a long time to realize it wasn't a small thing at all. Nothing that makes you feel bad about yourself is ever a small thing. The only part of that home I would miss was the corner where I wrote. A simple desk, a lamp, and a laptop. A space that had given birth to countless worlds. I had loved writing since I was a kid, but Eleanor always dismissed it as not a real job, so I put the hobby aside. It wasn't until college, when I had more free time, that I started again. My first reader was Eleanor. I was so excited, so hopeful she would praise my work. But after she read it, she just said coldly, "This is rambling nonsense. It's worthless." "Ethan," she said, her voice flat, "you have no talent for writing. Give it up." But I suppose I truly loved it because for the first time, I didn't listen to her. I kept writing, and as I did, I actually started to make a name for myself. When I got my first royalty check, I showed it to her with a touch of pride. I got paid for my writing. A whole $100. I wanted to prove to her that people read my work, that someone was even willing to pay for it. I wanted to prove that I wasn't as pathetic as she made me out to be. And what was Eleanor's reaction? She skimmed the page, her eyes flying over the words, before delivering her verdict. "This is completely worthless." She looked down at me, her gaze dripping with scorn. "The world is full of bleeding hearts. They probably just gave you a tip to encourage a new writer. You don't actually think you're any good, do you?" Her every word was a dagger, puncturing the fragile bubble of hope in my heart, leaving behind nothing but a festering wound. After that, no matter how much money I made from my writing, I never mentioned it to her again. I took a deep breath, ready to pack up my laptop, when I noticed it was already on. I lifted the screen. The manuscript file on my desktop, it was gone. That was a 50,000-word draft. Every single word had been carefully chosen, agonized over. The amount of heart and soul I had poured into it was immeasurable. I checked the trash bin. I searched through my Word document history. Nothing. Nothing. It was all gone. There was only one person who would do something like this. A voice came from behind me. Eleanor was leaning against the doorframe, her expression dark and unreadable. "I deleted what you wrote. I see now that this useless hobby has been giving you all these crazy ideas." She looked at me, her voice laced with contempt. "You didn't really think you could leave me and support yourself with this worthless garbage, did you?" I just stood there, stunned. The bright screen reflected my face back at me, haggard, heartbroken, the corners of my eyes red and swollen. How did 10 years with Eleanor turn me into this? Assuming she had me cowed, she continued her tirade. "You don't think writing a lot makes you good, do you? Ethan, this stuff has made you reckless. Now you can't even take my criticism anymore. You're not my ideal partner, I'll admit. I'm just pointing out your flaws. It's for your own good. Why are you throwing a fit about it? For my own good. For my own good. For my own good." Every time Eleanor finished listing my shortcomings, she would add that phrase, "It's for your own good," as if to sanctify her cruelty. But I was so tired of hearing it. Even though I had resolved to fight back, my body started to tremble uncontrollably. Tears streamed down my face. "Eleanor, in your eyes, is there a single thing about me that's good? My writing is worthless. My life is a mess. If I'm such a terrible person, why are you still with me?" These unspoken words burst forth, tearing open a wound deep inside me, and all the pent-up anguish came pouring out. I went berserk, smashing the mug she had bought me, grabbing the clothes and towels she'd forced on me, and cutting them to shreds with a pair of scissors. "I hate this stuff. I like bright, colorful things. My taste is tacky, so what? Am I such a pathetic person in your eyes that even the things I like are worthless?" I smashed, I tore, I screamed. And for the first time, I saw a genuine shock in Eleanor's eyes. The harsh line of her brow softened. She reached out to grab me, but the first words she spoke were, "Ethan, calm down first. You're a grown man. How have you still not learned to control your emotions?" I looked at her with utter despair. My breakdown, my catharsis, my self-doubt. In her eyes, it was all just a failure to control my emotions. Even now, the first thing she did was criticize me. That profound sense of helplessness wrapped around me again, threatening to swallow me whole. The drama ended when Leo came upstairs, pulled me away, and shielded me from Eleanor. The moment she saw Leo, her face darkened. "Ethan, didn't I tell you not to hang out with friends like this? All he does is praise and enable you. It will only warp your judgment and prevent you from improving." Leo wrapped his jacket around my shoulders, covering my ears and shutting out her voice as he closed the door behind us. The last thing he said to her was, "Whether I'm a good influence or not is debatable. But being my friend is Ethan's choice. You don't get to judge." I quit my job. I started looking for a new place while focusing on my writing at Leo's. The truth was, after years of writing, my royalties had long surpassed my modest salary. I could more than support myself. I had once brought up the idea of writing full-time to Eleanor, but she had mocked me for my pipe dream. "Stop chasing that fantasy of being a writer," she'd said. "Just focus on your day job." My ambitions, in her eyes, were always a joke. When Eleanor found out I'd quit my job, she, predictably, tore into me over text. "You're not working? How are you going to support yourself? Leo has completely ruined you." I was done. I texted back. We already broke up, and then I blocked her number. My mom called trying to talk me out of it, but I hung up on her too. Truthfully, my mom and I never had a great relationship. She was intensely competitive and desperate for me to succeed. A carbon copy of Eleanor. Her most common phrase was, "Learn from Eleanor. She's good at everything. You need to listen to her if you want to get anywhere." Later, when she found out Eleanor and I were dating, she'd constantly remind me, "You're lucky to be with her. With your prospects, you'll never find anyone better." I grew up in a single-parent home. For all her criticism, my mom did raise me on her own. Because of that, I always tried to be obedient. But this time, I wanted to choose for myself. The days after leaving Eleanor were bright and clear. Even my editor noticed. "Haven," she said, "your writing has been exceptionally good lately." Haven was my pen name. I chose it years ago, hoping that one day I could live a life free from sorrow, no longer trapped by the opinions of others. But the remnants of my deeply ingrained insecurity still found ways to creep into my life. The first time I wore a button-down shirt out, I found myself nervously pulling at the hem. I used to wear them, but Eleanor always said I was too thin and looked awkward in them. So I stopped. But now Leo slapped my hand away. "What are you doing? It's the perfect length. Looks great. You have a great upper body, lean and strong," he said. "You should show it off with confidence." I eat slowly, always have. I like to savor my food. Eleanor used to constantly nag me about it. "You eat so slowly. You're wasting precious time. It's so inefficient." When I once again caught myself eating slowly and delaying us, I instinctively apologized to Leo. He looked at me, surprised. "What's there to apologize for? Eating slowly is good for digestion. It's a good habit. You don't need to be ashamed of it." Under Leo's constant stream of praise, I gradually started to regain my confidence. I began to reevaluate myself. I graduated from a good university. I had a career that could support me. I was tall. I had a good personality. As Leo told me, "Ethan, you are a genuinely good and talented person." Even the woman who ran the diner downstairs commented on it. "When you first moved in, you always had such a sad look on your face. I always wondered why such a handsome young man never smiled." "Look at you now," she said, beaming. "You're smiling so much more. You look so much better." She said this just after a rainstorm. The dark clouds had parted. The sun was peeking through, and the puddles on the sidewalk reflected the colors of a rainbow. It turns out, when you find your confidence, the whole world starts to shine along with you. I fell into a routine of writing and living. The scars from my 10 years with Eleanor slowly began to fade, until I saw her again. I ran into Eleanor at the pitch meeting for the screen adaptation of my novel, The Shadowed Path. My book was being turned into a series, and today's meeting was to select a production company. I never would have guessed that the company Eleanor worked for would be one of the competitors. I tried to pretend I didn't see her, but she called out my name. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" Before I could answer, a look of realization dawned on her face. "Oh, I get it. You must be a fan of the author, Haven. You snuck in, didn't you?" I just stared at her. Eleanor continued, talking as if to herself. "Haven is a brilliant writer, but Ethan, you should give up. No matter how much you try to emulate him, you'll never reach his level." Seeing my silence, her tone softened slightly. "Ethan, I know what I said before hurt you, but I was telling the truth." She looked at me with an air of superiority, her presence casting a familiar shadow over me. "If you come back to me, I'm willing to forgive and forget. You're unemployed, you're average-looking, and you have no real skills. How are you going to survive without me?" A bitter laugh escaped my lips. I yanked my arm out of her grasp. "Eleanor, we broke up. How I live my life is my business. And please, stop passing judgment on it." Just then, a coordinator from across the room waved me over. I walked straight toward them, leaving Eleanor behind. I thought she would have gotten the message. But as I sat at the head table, reviewing my presentation notes, she materialized at my side again like a ghost. Eleanor looked stressed, grabbing my arm and trying to pull me out of my seat. I shook her off, annoyed. "Eleanor, what the hell are you doing?" She frowned, her voice a harsh whisper. "Ethan, I don't care how much you admire Haven, but this is not the place for you to act out. You're sitting in a seat. Have you ever considered that showing up unannounced and taking his spot, acting like some kind of stalker fan, would just make him hate you? Ethan, how old are you? Why don't you understand basic social etiquette?" Her voice was a little too loud, and people around the conference table started to turn and stare. Eleanor always did this. She loved to reprimand me in public, letting me drown in a sea of questioning, probing glances. Those stares always seemed to fuel her, reinforcing the righteousness of her actions. See, everyone is looking at you. You must have done something wrong. Just as she'd done countless times before, she waited until enough eyes were on me before she began trying to drag me away, explaining to the people nearby with a strained, apologetic smile, "I'm so sorry. This is my boyfriend. He's a huge fan of Haven. He didn't know the rules and snuck in. I'll get him out of here right now." A young woman sitting nearby finally spoke up. "But he is Haven." Eleanor froze. "What? That's impossible." She looked around the table, but everyone was just watching her, silent. In their quiet gazes, I saw it all. The doubt, the ridicule, the confusion. The same looks that used to be directed at me. As if a switch flipped in her mind, she whipped her head back to look at me, her eyes wide with utter disbelief. "You're Haven." I finally pulled my hand free, a genuine smile spreading across my face for the first time that day. "Yes, I'm Haven. So, Eleanor, you and your production company can get the hell out." In the end, Eleanor didn't leave. From the moment I stepped up to the podium to give my presentation, her eyes never left me. I could see the shock, the confusion, and a fleeting glimmer of admiration. She probably never imagined that the ex-boyfriend she had deemed utterly worthless could have a moment where he shined so brightly. After the meeting, she was waiting for me by the exit. She kept her head down, and her voice, for the first time I could remember, held a note of caution. "Ethan, I honestly had no idea you were Haven. When you were up there on stage today, you were like a different person. I almost didn't recognize you." "Ethan." Eleanor took a deep breath, her lips pressed tightly together, as if she were steeling herself. "Actually, you're pretty amazing." There was a time when hearing those words would have made me ecstatic. In the past, I had pushed myself to study, to work out, to do countless things against my own will, all for a crumb of her approval. And now, long after I had broken out of the cage she built for me, that approval had finally arrived. But it was too late. I didn't need it anymore. I knew my own worth now. I was good not because someone else said I was good, but because I simply was. I didn't need anyone's stamp of approval for that. I gave her a polite nod. "Thank you. I know I am." Her voice grew urgent. "Then, Ethan, can you come back to me now? I admit you're incredible. I won't talk to you like I did before." I didn't answer her question. Instead, I started talking about my life after her. "You know, Eleanor, after I left you, I discovered something amazing. I found out that no one cares if I eat slowly, that I can wear a button-down shirt even if I don't have a perfect body, and that the things I write might not be for everyone, but they will always find readers who appreciate them." Eleanor's face paled, her confident facade crumbling piece by piece. The woman who was always in control looked genuinely panicked for the first time. She opened her mouth to explain, "That's not what I meant back then." I cut her off. I smiled, my eyes curving. "Eleanor," I said softly, "after leaving you, I realized that the world is a very forgiving place. So I don't want to be trapped by your side ever again." Even though I had blocked Eleanor on every platform, she still found ways to invade my life. She used different numbers to send me pleading text messages. "Ethan, I've done a lot of thinking. I was wrong to treat you that way. I shouldn't have constantly put you down. I shouldn't have been so strict about everything. Can you give me one more chance? Can you forgive me?" For every text she sent, I blocked a new number. I couldn't forgive her. The wounds she carved into my heart when I was young had eventually healed, but they left scars. Those scars still ached on quiet nights, twisting into nightmares that jolted me awake time and time again. So no, I couldn't forgive her. Later, one of our mutual friends tried to intervene. "Eleanor knows she was wrong. And honestly, it's not like she cheated on you or anything. A guy with your prospects, if you miss out on her, you'll never find another wife like that." In the past, I would have unconsciously agreed with that statement, making me even more subservient to Eleanor. But now I just ask, confused, "What do you mean, my prospects? And what do you mean, I'll never find another one like her?" I graduated from top university. I'm not bad-looking, and I have a successful career. Is that really so bad? My friend fell silent. As for my mother's calls, the moment she started trying to persuade me to get back with Eleanor, I would hang up. She must have finally sensed my resolve, because one day, she didn't try to persuade me. "Ethan, you're a grown man now, with your own ideas. I don't want to interfere too much. I just hope you can come home for a visit. Ever since you moved out of state for work, I barely see you once a year." Sensing my hesitation, she quickly added, "Don't worry. I promise I won't bring up Eleanor or try to meddle in your life again." I thought about it. She was, after all, my only family. She had worked hard for years as a single mother, and that had surely shaped her worldview. Maybe this visit was a chance to change her perspective. So, 6 months after breaking up with Eleanor, I went home for the first time, attempting to confront the wounds of my youth. It was one of the biggest regrets of my life, because when I walked through the door, I saw Eleanor Vance. My mother greeted me with a bright smile. "You're back. Eleanor made your favorite dish. She's so thoughtful." My mom continued, oblivious. "She knows you like colorful things, so she spent the last 2 days redecorating your old room." Eleanor brought a dish to the table, a pleased smile playing on her lips. "It was nothing, Auntie." The two of them went back and forth, a picture of perfect harmony, as if nothing had ever happened. I clutched my duffel bag, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. "Mom, you promised you wouldn't interfere in my business with Eleanor anymore." My mother avoided my gaze, stammering, "Well, I think it's such a shame. Eleanor is such a wonderful girl. You should give her another chance." That familiar feeling of helplessness, the one that had defined the first 2 decades of my life, surged through me uncontrollably. Everyone was speaking up for Eleanor. The whole world felt sorry for Eleanor. But no one ever asked me how I felt. No one cared if I was happy in that relationship. But thankfully this time, I knew how to love myself. I picked up my bag and turned to leave, but Eleanor blocked my path. She lowered her head, her eyelashes fluttering, her eyes swirling with an emotion I couldn't decipher. "Ethan, I was wrong. I won't criticize your body anymore. I won't say eating slowly is a waste of time. I won't dismiss your novels, and I won't call your taste low class. Whatever you are, good or bad, I will accept all of it." The proud genius, for the first time, lowered her head, her voice pleading. "Ethan, can't you forgive me and come back to me?" I just shook my head. She still didn't get it. Our relationship had reached this point because it was like a beautiful coat infested with lice. No matter how much you picked at the surface, you could never fix the rotten core. What I wanted was never her top-down tolerance. It was mutual, equal respect. I wanted her to respect my choices and my ideas, even if she didn't understand them, and not to judge or interfere. The fact that she had disregarded my wishes, continued to harass me, and even conspired with my mother to deceive me proved one thing. She still hadn't learned how to respect me. "Eleanor," I said, looking her directly in the eye, "today, you might be able to stop criticizing me. But what about tomorrow? The day after? A lifetime is a long time. I'm bound to do things that you don't approve of. What will you do then? Will you go back to belittling me, making me feel so insecure that I'll do anything to please you? Or will you do what you're doing now? Ignore my feelings and use every resource and connection you have to force me back to you?" Eleanor tried to say something, even reaching out to grab my arm again. But before her hand could touch me, a couple of big guys appeared from the stairwell, glaring at her menacingly. Leo stepped out, leaning against the doorframe. "What's this?" he asked coldly. The soft approach didn't work. "So now you're trying force?" A wave of relief washed over me at the sight of him. Thankfully, I had planned ahead, asking Leo to wait downstairs with a couple of his burly friends from the gym. If he didn't hear from me after a certain amount of time, it meant I was in trouble. As the guys escorted me downstairs, Eleanor's voice called out from behind me. "Ethan, just give me more time. I'll prove to you that I can change." I paused at the bottom of the stairs and looked back one last time. "Eleanor, you already had 10 years to prove that you couldn't. So this time, I'm not going to believe you." Eventually, I moved out of Leo's place and used my book earnings to buy a small condo. I painted all the walls a vibrant shade of green, filled my bedroom with quirky, useless trinkets, and bought the most colorful household items I could find. This time, there was no one around to criticize me. I stopped going home, even making excuses about work during the holidays. I spent New Year's Eve by myself in my little condo. My mom, to her credit, seemed to have learned her lesson and never tried to set me up with Eleanor again. But she couldn't help but lament over the phone. "Ethan, do you think if I hadn't interfered that last time, we would be closer now?" Sometimes she would beg me, "Ethan, please come see me, just for a little while." I promise Eleanor won't be there. She was getting older. I could hear the sincerity in her tired, raspy voice. But the damage she had caused didn't just disappear with age. So, in response to her pleas, I could only offer silence. Sometime later, I met someone wonderful. The day I made it official on Facebook, the same mutual friend who had advocated for Eleanor messaged me again. "Ethan, this girl isn't as pretty as Eleanor, and she's not as successful. Your standards are really slipping. I still think Eleanor was the best choice for you," he added. "For you, maybe. Not for me," I replied. I smiled to myself, and then I blocked the idiot. Maybe from the outside, my new girlfriend didn't seem as perfect as Eleanor, but she loved everything I wore and encouraged me to forget my body anxiety and dress however I wanted. She would read every chapter of my novels and tell me how brilliant they were. No matter what I did, she would gently stroke my hair, her eyes curving into crescents. My Ethan is the absolute best. After a damp, dark adolescence and a miserable decade that followed, I had finally, at the age of 29, found my salvation. The last time I saw Eleanor was when I brought my fiancée, Anna, home to meet my mom. My mother sized Anna up, and her first instinct was to say, well, she's not as. But she caught herself, glanced nervously at me, and finally swallowed her words. She's lovely, she said instead. While Anna and my mom were in the kitchen cooking, I went for a walk and unexpectedly ran into Eleanor. She had lost a lot of weight and was leaning against a lamppost, smoking a cigarette, a habit I'd never seen her have before. The dim yellow light cast her lonely shadow long and thin across the pavement. I'd heard things hadn't been going well for her. After the fiasco at the shadowed path pitch meeting, her company lost the bid, and Eleanor was fired. Later, someone with nothing better to do posted a video of the incident online. There was no audio, so all anyone could see was her grabbing and pulling at me. Eleanor was branded an obsessive fan harassing an author. My readers tore her apart online, and her reputation was ruined. No production company would hire her. She had no choice but to move back to her hometown. Unsurprisingly, she called out to me, "Ethan, it's been a while." It was rush hour, and the street was crowded with people. I figured she wouldn't dare cause a scene, so I gave her a polite nod. It has. A long silence stretched between us. It was almost comical, wasn't it? Two people who had spent 10 years together, now with nothing to say to each other. But for us, it made perfect sense. We never really had much in common to begin with. Finally, Eleanor broke the silence. "I saw you with your fiancé. You two look good together." I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded again. "Thanks." Seeing she had nothing else to say, I gave her a small wave and turned to leave. As I did, she finally mustered her courage. "Ethan, I still want to formally apologize." A bitter smile touched her lips. You know how it was. My dad always had impossibly high standards for me. I was just as hard on myself, and I couldn't stop myself from projecting those same standards onto you. The truth is, you are a good person. You're handsome and smart. But whenever I was with you, I would unconsciously start acting like my father, saying things to belittle and criticize you. She said a lot more, dissecting her pain and helplessness, her struggles and her regrets. I listened quietly, feeling nothing at all. In the end, only one word came to mind. "Oh." Faced with my cold response, Eleanor looked up sharply, her expression filled with sorrow. "Ethan, even knowing my reasons, you still can't forgive me?" I nodded. Yeah, her issues with her father were her own. Why did I have to be dragged into them? Being born into a family like that was her tragedy. But her tragedy didn't give her the right to hurt me. Even after all this time, just standing in front of Eleanor made me deeply uncomfortable. The moment I saw her, I had instinctively checked my own clothes to make sure they were presentable. I had the sudden urge to hide the quirky keychain hanging from my backpack. These habits of insecurity were carved deep into my bones, a rotten part of me that I would have to spend the rest of my life painstakingly cutting away. In that moment, all I wanted was to be back with Anna. I wanted to hold her, to hear her praise me, to feel my own heart beat wildly, happily and freely. These were things I had never once felt with Eleanor. She lowered her head again, her face hidden in shadow. "Okay, I get it. I won't bother you anymore." I turned to go, but then paused and looked back at her. "Eleanor, in the future, if you see me, please don't say hello. Let's just pretend we don't know each other. Honestly, it's probably a side effect of those 10 years, but every time I see you, I feel really sick to my stomach." Before she could react, I disappeared into the bustling crowd, heading home. Someone was waiting for me there. On my wedding day, I received a card. The handwriting on it was elegant and strong. "Happy wedding. I wish you all the happiness." The signature at the bottom had been erased and rewritten so many times that all that remained was a faint, shadowy smudge. Just like my 10 years with that person. Leo called from the doorway. "What are you looking at?" "The groom's about to make his entrance." I casually tossed the card into the trash can. "It's nothing." Before I walked out, Leo helped me straighten my suit. It was funny, really. After looking at countless options, my favorite was still the same style as the one I had tried on right before I broke up with Eleanor. When I had worn it in the store to show Anna, she had been so stunned she was speechless. "Ethan," she had breathed, "you look so incredibly handsome." And just like that, the hope I'd had all that time ago was finally, tenderly caught by someone else. Now, wearing this suit, I watched Anna's silhouette at the end of the aisle. I was so overcome with happiness I could barely speak. My new life was finally about to begin.